From WIS Politics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Morton with WIS Politics, here with a Capital Chats podcast brought to you by Spectrum. Today I'm here in the office with my colleague Abigail Levins to talk about her interview with Representative Jim Piwowarczyk. So, Abigail, what are some of the things that you guys discussed?
Hey, Kate. Jim and I discussed his past experience as a law enforcement officer and therefore some criminal justice bills he's been trying to push forward. He also talked a lot about the importance of pushing President Trump's immigration agenda in the state.
All right, let's hear some of what you guys talked about.
Thanks for agreeing to be with me on the podcast, Jim. I want to lead with kind of the news that's happening in the state legislature right now, which is there's some talk of the state budget. We've had some sessions so far. What's your perception of what's currently happening with the state budget? Have you been having conversations with colleagues? What do you make of Governor Evers' budget as well as what the Republicans are discussing?
Oh, absolutely. It's probably the number one topic right now is the budget. We're very far apart. I think Governor Evers and the legislature are very far apart in the process so far. I think his ask was way too high, but we are in the process of reviewing all of that, talking with constituents. We've had hearing sessions about it. So, I'm still new to this process, so I can't give you an expert opinion. But I will say at this point, we are very far apart. Do we come to an agreement? I don't know. I really I have no idea.
And you mentioned you're new to the process. I do want to hear a little bit about your background and what led you to the legislature in the first place. So could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So I was, I never actually aspired to get into the state legislature. I was a police officer for about 20 years. Very, very much involved, obviously, then in criminal justice system and public safety. And then I left. I decided to leave law enforcement after my third child was born. I wanted to get into the business world. I started up several fitness clubs, developed them, owned, operated them. I have my own real estate company, love real estate. I'm a real estate investor, along with being a real estate broker. I've always been really interested in politics. I started up a conservative news site called Wisconsin Right Now with my co-founder, Jessica McBride. And that really threw me into, the world of politics and of policy. And I really found that I enjoyed researching policy, learning about it, advocating for it. And so it wasn't until really the legislative maps were redrawn last year that I had come to realize that the new district that I live in, the 98 district, had no incumbent. And so I, spoke with my friends and family and decided, I'd like to try this out. So that's when I decided to run for it.
Sure. And I'd like to talk a little bit about Wisconsin Right Now because you said you co-founded that. And I know you've kind of kept writing for it as a legislator. What has that been like? Has it been interesting to be on the other side and still sometimes fill in? Is it weird to be writing for it and also a part of it?
Yeah. So I've definitely taken a big step back. Jessica has now taken full ownership of that. I still do help her out. I edit some of the stories. I do some background investigation stuff on it, a little bit of research in my spare time, especially on subjects that are of great interest to me. In terms of it's now that I've taken a step back, it's not so odd, I guess, being both in the media and in the legislature. But it's interesting now that I'm in the legislature to actually see how the sausage is made, let's say, and that, it's different than what the media might think how it's made or the public. And so it's definitely interesting being on the inside now, watching the negotiations, the conversations, the debate, has been really an interesting move for me.
Sure. And another aspect of your background is your many years in law enforcement. And I know on your campaign, a big platform for you was criminal justice, was protecting people, keeping criminals off the street, increasing public safety. And
Yeah.
I know you've been on some of the criminal justice bills so far in the legislature. Is anything you've worked on so far that you're excited about in that realm?
So I've been I'm a big advocate for the Speaker Voss and I authored together the criminal illegal bill that would mandate that sheriffs cooperate with ICE. Very proud of that bill. I did a lot of research, before I became elected, did a lot of research on the crimes that were being committed by some illegals. So it was of interest to me. I've also become, very involved. I've met with both our district attorneys. So my district covers both Washington County and Waukesha County. And so I've met with them, and I have been involved in getting both of them more prosecutors. Crime continues to go up. We've added law enforcement. And so, we can be advocates for public safety, but part of that is also then making sure that our district attorney's offices are properly staffed to be able to prosecute those cases. So I have written a couple of co-authored or authored some budget proposals to get them their DAs. And I've spoken also, like with Eric Toney, for instance, on the need for DAs across Wisconsin. So I have been involved in those conversations.
Yeah, you mentioned that federal immigration enforcement bill you authored with Speaker Voss. That bill has definitely gotten a lot of attention this session because of all the discussions around federal enforcement and how local sheriffs can be complying. Why do you think this is important? Do you think, is there any other efforts you want to increase on the state level for local sheriffs or local law enforcement complying with federal
So
officers?
if I had my way, I think that we should have all of our sheriffs throughout Wisconsin fall under the 287G program eventually. And ever since we did make this proposed bill, we have had more sheriffs around the state that have entered that program. I mean, and let's be honest, we have two counties in particular that have been a problem. It's Dane County and Milwaukee County that simply have refused to cooperate with ICE. And, because cancer isn't or because crime is not localized, it spreads like cancer. And so it's important, like in Milwaukee County, for instance, it's important that we get illegals that are here committing violent crimes and felonies, that they are taken off our streets. And quite honestly, I'd like to see them deported. They shouldn't be here in the first place. And now if they're committing crimes, that's really that 2 strikes and you're out, then you need to be deported. And if they're not, then they're going to come into counties like Waukesha, Washington counties, and commit crimes. So I believe it is important that we deport them.
And Wisconsin has been on the national stage for this issue after what happened with Judge Hannah Dugan. What do you think, as a former law enforcement officer who's pushing this issue, do you think she should not be a judge anymore? What do you think should happen?
Yeah, I don't believe she should be a judge any longer. I think that I was quite frankly surprised the Wisconsin Supreme Court did come out and suspend her powers. I agreed with that decision. I had called for it. And I do believe that she should ultimately lose her job over this.
Sure. And what do you make of the president's general border policies right now, and how do you feel these can be implemented in Wisconsin?
Well, it's 2 different issues. It's federal and state. But I do support President Trump's policies and his strict border policies. We've seen an incredibly massive reduction in border crossings, and I do believe that we should be deporting illegal criminals.
Sure. And we've talked a lot about criminal justice. Are there any other areas of priority coming up for you in the legislature that you want to be thinking about?
Well, education continues to be a really a top issue. When I did 10,000 doors, me and my supporters, my family and friends did 10,000 doors, and at those doors, we learned that education continues to be a top priority. Making sure that our schools, I think they're properly funded, but just making sure that the funds are used properly. Special education continues to be a concern, making sure our public schools get the proper funding for the special education. There's a formula there that I think we need to take a look at. Shared revenue formulas. Every time I meet with the town boards, everyone's upset about roads. And so, is there some room to tweak the shared revenue formulas? I would like to see it happen, but I'm not so sure it will. So those are some of the top priorities.
Sure. Well, these are the main questions I have for you, Jim. Anything else you want to share about what you're looking forward to in the legislature in the coming months?
I would just say what an honor it's been. Every day I walk up to the Capitol, I go to my office, and how honored I am to be there. I love the debate every day with different people that come in, with fellow legislators on policy. I enjoy the challenge. It's kind of like I tell some people, it's kind of like sucking on the end of a fire hose, because you have to suddenly become an expert in so many issues almost by the hour. You have to learn, 1 hour how transmission lines around Wisconsin are built. The next hour you have to learn about the shared revenue formulas. Next, about how school funding is done. So it's really interesting. It's been a really incredible honor, and I really appreciate the challenge.
I'm happy we got to talk about it today, Jim. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Great. Thank you.
All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you'd like to learn more about some of our freshman lawmakers, you can head to our website at wispolitics.com. In the meantime, I'm Kate Morton.
And I'm Abigail Evans.
Thanks for tuning in to WIS Politics Capital Chats, brought to you by Spectrum.